Hey, it's Deep Focus. I'm your host, Mitch Goldman. It's March 20th, 2023. Ras Moshe is my guest. Our topic, Kalaparusha Maurice McIntyre. And this is part 2 of 3 parts. Ras Moshe, man, this guy is the keeper of the keys to the kingdom. He is a true believer and a noted practitioner and a scholar and so much more. Really such a pleasure always having him in the studio, as you'll hear. Here we go. If you didn't hear part 1, I want to check that out first. at the Tin Palace. It's February, winter 1977, here in New York City, down in the Lower East Side. You are listening to Deep Focus. I'm your host, Mitch Goldman. Very happy to be here in the studio with Ras Moshe, WKCR-FM New York, WKCR-HD, WKCR.org for all our friends around the world, 89.9 FM here on the broadcast, and welcome to springtime.
Yeah, man, that's right. It's the first day of spring today. Today, right?
Yeah, this afternoon we survived. Actually, a little maybe disappointing for some, delight for others. We didn't really get any snow this year.
Yeah,
barely,
I noticed
barely
that.
Any.
I noticed that, man. I noticed that the last 3-4 years, maybe it snowed sometime, but not. Did it snow at all this year?
I mean, flakes, but we didn't get a proper dumping.
I noticed that, man. And some of those warm days in the wintertime.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed it, but it's probably not for a good reason that's happening.
Probably right. Probably right about that. I should let folks know, we might have some people tuning in thinking they're going to hear a Columbia basketball game. And I have been told that the game is being broadcast on a separate online-only stream. So if you go to WKCR.org, there's a page off the homepage for WNIT. I understand that's where you want to click if you want to hear the game. Or you could just hang out with us. Come on down to the Tin Palace. But I'll say one more time, off the page at WKCR.org, you want to find that WNIT page. You're going to click on that, and you'll be hearing the hoops. But we are loving this night at the Tin Palace. It's Kalaparusha Maurice McIntyre leading I would call this an all-star ensemble from the world
Definitely.
of that scene down there, if not the larger world as a whole. Yeah. And they're just all these guys, it feels like, separately and together, there's just wave after wave after wave of ideas and energy and imagination and storytelling and dancing and all kinds of other things going on here.
Yes.
I'm curious, and we're having Ras Moshe and I are enjoying listening together in the studio.
Yes.
One of the nice things I got to say for those of us, I know we got people listening in the car, people listening at home, wherever they might be. There's a volume control right next to where it attaches. Yeah, where that cable comes out. That might be your story. Ross is looking for the headphones. Is that helping? If not, grab another pair.
But I can, thanks for...
Well, I was going to say, one of the great things, we get to kind of crank it up here in the studio,
that's right.
Which is a nice way to listen. If you have the opportunity, you want to... what do you think? Is something lost if you don't have the volume of the music? Is it supposed to rattle your bones a little bit? Or
I feel that way. I mean, if I want to hear music without the headphones at a certain time of night, I can't, maybe in the daytime I can play it slightly louder to get the impact of it like it's coming toward you,
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're definitely feeling the energy of it here.
Yeah, feels like you're there,
Yeah. It's a lot of presence in this recording. And I don't necessarily mean that the way audio engineers might say, but I mean in the literal sense of feeling these guys in the room. I hope it feels that way for you wherever you're listening. And one of the things we were talking about when we were listening here in the studio, that we heard a new instrument, a new voice on that last solo.
Yes.
Maybe you want to talk about that a little bit.
Kalaparusha was playing the clarinet, and he had a distinctive sound on the clarinet. A couple of notes, and it was him.
Yeah, I would say he had a bunch of different sounds even.
Yeah, I mean, we even, commented on the fact that it sounded like one of the Eastern double reed instruments, And he had those kinds of interests personally and everything. I wouldn't be surprised if he was using those kinds of extended techniques with that in mind, it sounded that way, And sometimes it's just a natural thing, too, The connection is just there, even if you're just playing yourself. It's Ancient to the Future is the AACM.
Yeah, and he comes out of that. He's on some of the earliest recordings among them. And he sounds like, to me, to my very untrained ear, and I'm asking you as a reed man, he sounds like he's got a kind of a degree of mastery of that sometimes difficult to control instrument, and he's crafting the tone and the sound that's coming out of that piece of wood.
He did, and he was doing, what we saxophonists like to do, play fast with technique and stuff. He did that, but then he played, I don't know if slow is the right word, but, he just played the tones. There wasn't necessarily speed involved every time, but you felt it, and then he could change the sonority of the note or tone as he was playing it. He was getting different sounds out of a note. It was interesting to listen to him, play the clarinet. I don't think he did play it a lot, I'm sure he played the tenor a little bit more, but he played the clarinet I think it was on his first record, too, Humility in the Light of the Creator.
Yes, yeah.
He plays clarinet on there. And he has the dexterity, and then he can just say a lot with a couple of notes. I was listening to what he was playing just now. He was playing the same series of tones, but getting different sounds out of each tone he was playing.
Yeah. Kind of similar to, in that sense, to what Lester's doing with the trumpet.
Yeah, you're right about that. I heard that. Lester was doing the same thing with tonalities, with just playing notes along with the rapid succession thing, but then also they were both just playing tones with different permutations on that tone, growling or then slurring, and then, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's very true. What he was doing on the clarinet, what Lester was doing on the trumpet, was kind of similar.
Each in their own way, of course. Is that, and as somebody who spends a lot of time playing a lot of reed instruments, maybe you could tell the audience how much of a challenge that is. Is that hard to do? Is that different, separate from, or in addition to, or parallel to?
It's not hard. I think he just played tenor saxophone and clarinet, so that's not hard as far as a practice regimen. If you're playing more than those, you have to set aside a lot of time to play each one every day. If there might be some musicians who are able to do that, or there's some instruments that they practice more than others. But I think if you're just going between two instruments, I don't think it's hard to maintain that. If it's just tenor saxophone and clarinet, then I think you can set aside a couple of hours for each one if that's part of your practice thing,
Well, he sounds, I get the feeling he's put a lot of time into exploring these other avenues. There's the conventional way that it's taught, and then, I picture him asking himself, where else can we go with this, and finding a lot of answers, and maybe continually finding new answers.
That's true. I agree with that, too. One thing we've been commenting on with the music is how you can hear the past and the present. I'm saying past with some trepidation, because that doesn't mean anything is obsolete or outdated, because it was established in previous years. But
he's informed.
Yeah, very much. And the quote unquote free playing definitely comes out of a lineage, and I think that's important. And you can hear the lineage in Kalaparusha's playing. And but none of the edge of his own voice is compromised, but it's there naturally. He was like that. Dewey Redman was like that. you know.
Do you think the way this kind of music that they're playing, is that a function of its time? Was there something about the way life was in New York at that time that they're responding to in the music, or do you think of it as its own thing?
I think so. I mean, it's very, not that a particular approach to so-called free music is related to one area, one geographic region. I mean, that's been said. I mean, like the players from Chicago, utilize space in their improvisations, and the New York style was more full out. I mean, yes and no. I mean, there were players in New York that were dealing with space also, like Bill Dixon, for instance, who had a different kind of resource for the trumpet, and it still had the same energy, in fact. And then you could have a Kalaparusha or Fred Anderson from Chicago, and they play full out like New York players.
Oh, yes.
So I guess, every kind of approach to free music exists wherever the music is being played.
I love the way these guys, what's happening in this set that we heard so far, they're the way that the energy moves and swells and ebbs, and the way
it does swell and ebb. I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, the way John Betch is playing.
Yes.
A lot of rising and falling and stuff. There's a lot of playing with a lot of dynamics. I mean, the power of the forward energy is definitely there. You can feel that. But he's utilizing everything with the drums.
Oh, yeah.
Even on the slightly slower part that we just heard, which was half of the last piece we heard. The first half was kind of fast, and then it went in a different area. But it didn't seem like any kind of energy was lost.
Yeah. And it seems like there's a lot of room in there for each of them to sort of be the leader at times. Unless maybe, I don't know if Kalaparusha's kind of directing that somehow, or if he's allowing...
I'm sure that everybody was the lead. I mean, they're playing his compositions, and he probably got the gig. But, I mean, this is a grouping of musicians who were socially close with each other and already playing with each other, in a variety of contexts,
Yeah, they know each other musically very, very well.
So, it was a Kalaparusha gig, but you could, everybody is equality in the music.
Well, what we heard so far, let me, if you're just joining us, actually it is more or less the midpoint of the show. And we call the show Deep Focus. I'm your host, Mitch Goldman, and I invite a guest. In this case tonight, Ras Moshe is here with us, and I call upon the guest to choose our topic.
It is an honor, Mitch.
It is really a privilege for me. And Ras Moshe chose Kalaparusha and brought this music from your own personal collection, which is really an extra treat for us. And there's two full sets. We heard one complete set, and we're heading into the next set. So I'm picturing everybody taking a little break, milling around a little bit,
right? Sharing
news of the day,
right?
And
what did they say? We take a pause for the cause.
That's right.
That's an old one. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Maybe what was going on in New York in February of '77?
On East Houston, on 3rd Avenue. Yeah,
that's right.
A lot was going on. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Well, I remember.
77. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I was too young for the 10 pounds. I didn't start seeing music in live until around 80, 81, but I remember 77.
Yes.
Just from, my father taking me places and stuff at that time. But I think 77, I was just probably watching the Electric Company or Zoom or something. Or,
there was a lot to pay attention to in New York at that time. Right. And especially in particular down in that part of the world. So, they take a little break. They're coming back on. And anything you want to point us to as we head into the second set?
Yeah. Wait, it wasn't 77 a year. The blackout, was that
Yes,
the
it
blackout?
was. Yes, it was.
What month was that? That was in the summertime,
July.
though. July.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yes. Yeah, that was that
July,
crazy
77.
summer. And the Yankees lost the World Series. They got swept by the Cincinnati Reds in 76. That was the first time in the World Series since the early 60s. Came back, got clobbered. Johnny Bench, Pete Rose came and clobbered us.
Things happen.
But they were coming back, and next year, summer 77, they took the prize.
Yeah, good. I remember summer 77.
Yeah, that was eventful. That was eventful for sure. Yes. Yeah. Well, we'll leave that one. We'll set aside that history lesson for the moment and get back to the Tin Palace. We're down on the Bowery and East 2nd Street. And these he does at the very end of this. You hear Kalaparusha announce the titles, but it's not easy to make out exactly what he's saying. Do you remember? Did you happen to catch?
That's a good point. Maybe I can listen out for. Yeah,
it's at the very end. He announces it. It's
okay.
Kind of tough to make out.
I forgot about that. That's true because I've always enjoyed listening to this, even though it's been a while since I heard it. I've heard it a lot. I'm glad I'm hearing it here after not hearing it for a while. But
it sounds great. The recording sounds great. The musicians sound great. It's just they're just all in. They're all in it together, and it's really a treat. I love pretty much every one of these musicians, and I don't know if I've ever heard all of them play together in this format, but
oh yeah,
they're it's lock and load. They just.
I think John Betch and Juma Sultan are the only ones left from this band too. I believe.
I think you're right. And none of them would have been. I want to say Kalaparusha was probably the senior member, but none of these guys would have been that old if they were still around.
Yeah, Kalaparusha was probably the older one, in the band,
But, well, I'm glad the music is still with us, and you brought it.
Hey, I appreciate that. Yeah, glad to, man.
All right, going back to the Tin Palace. February, you were going to say.
I think this is one long set. I don't think it's divided into two like the other one,
Well, maybe we'll just pop in for a moment.
Yeah.
And just let everybody know where they're at. And, we're going back down to the Tin Palace. It's Deep Focus, Kalaparusha, and The Light.
Everybody's coming in after the break.
Yes, coming back. Hear them coming up on the bandstand.
Right.
It's WKCR. are coming right back to that. I know. I feel your disappointment when you hear the sound of my voice. I can't blame you for that. But I do have my hostly responsibilities to you, to my guest, Ras Moshe.
Yeah, man.
And to the FCC, for whom I shall state, you're listening to WKCR FM New York, WKCR-HD. Maybe you're with us on WKCR.org, or here in New York, 89.9 FM, or you might be listening to the Deep Focus podcast. Because next week, and when I say next week, I'm speaking from the present. When I say the present, I mean today, which is March 20th, 2023. Next week, this is going to show up on the Deep Focus podcast. Yeah. You could find it on that phone in your pocket. Or you can always go to the hosting site, which is mitchgoldman.podbean.com. And when you go there, you will hear what you hear on FM. No advertising. I'm not going to ask you for any money or anything. Might ask you to give us some likes and thumbs up and 5 stars, whatever your system might have, because that's going to help people who don't know about the show find it. And I know it seems incredible, but there are still people who don't know about Deep Focus, and we just want to share the music with them.
They need to know. Yeah,
we have to inform them. And you don't have to do all you got.
Great shows, man.
Oh, thank you.
I always listen.
It's for you. It's for you. I do the show for you.
Man. Yeah.
So having taken care of a little bit of housekeeping right there, Ras, you want to tell the folks where we're at and what we're doing?
We're at the Tin Palace in New York City.
Oh, yes.
Right there, as it happened via 2023. February 27th, 1977. Very much, about 5-6 months before the blackout.
That's right. I want to say Ed Koch was maybe just getting elected mayor right about then.
Ed Koch, we said, "How am I doing?" He used to say, "Yeah, I remember."
That's right.
It's the 2 Jumas on percussion. Juma Santos, that's Juma with 2 M's. Juma Sultan with 1 M. Both on hand drums and assorted percussion. John Betch on the drums, trap set. Fred Hopkins bass, Lester Bowie trumpet, Hamia Blewett baritone, saxophone, and flute. Kalaparusha Aradifta, also Kalaparusha Maurice McIntyre, he was known as. Tenor saxophone, clarinet, percussion, and some vocalizing. Great clarinet playing, too.
Yeah. Everybody's bringing it all. I was going to say, don't confuse him with Ken McIntyre, who was around on the scene at that time.
Right, yeah.
Another great musician.
Absolutely.
Educator. But, different person. This is Maurice McIntyre, Kalaparusha, and The Light, the name of the ensemble. And he doesn't have a huge discography, I'm sorry to say, at least not that I know of.
Yeah, it's not very big.
But a handful of very noteworthy recordings, any one of which you'll be happy to have in your collection. He passed on, I'm trying to remember now how many years back.
That's a good question. I should have looked that up.
Should have had that handy.
And I
didn't do our homework.
When it happened.
I want to say 10 years ago or so, something like that.
His birthday's March 24th, so.
All right.
It was also like a birthday shout in advance.
Yeah.
To him too.
Yeah. Happy birthday. And he did have a few separate careers, moments when he emerged in one scene or another, starting out young man playing in Chicago with the music that was going on at the time, and I didn't prepare a thumbnail bio, but off the top of my head, he did work with some of the more
he did. He worked with a variety of people. In fact, there's a record that Roland Alexander did with Kalaparusha. I think it's Kalaparusha. I think John Betch is on that too, actually. Some of Kalaparusha's group and some of Roland Alexander's group, called Live at the Axis. Maybe you've heard it. It's called recorded at Axis in Soho. Maybe you remember that space in '78. I think on Karma Records.
You know,
something like
you're ahead
that.
of me on this one. I'll tell you.
Yeah, I should play that. I haven't heard that for a while. Yeah, I think he's on that with Roland Alexander. And as far as records, but I mean, his recorded output, it's not a lot.
But and he didn't he released something not too long before he passed, I think. And there's even, I think, a documentary about him that I've never seen.
Yeah, there's a documentary that I think is online. I think it might be on YouTube or Vimeo. I think it's called Closeness, if I remember correctly. It's like a hour and a half documentary of him, but that's in his later life.
Yeah.
In 2001, on my series called Music Now, Abby London Crawford and myself had Kalaparusha at a venue called the Orange Bear that was on Warren Street. Used to be on Warren Street. It's not that. That was 2001. And I played and Kalaparusha played. And this was his band with Jesse Dolman and Ravish Momeen. And that was a good... I think Kalaparusha was working a little more around that time. He was getting a little more visibility. I mean, thanks to Ravish Momeen, who really looked out and organized a lot, and Jesse Dolman organized a lot for Kalaparusha. So even when his health wasn't the greatest, I mean, he was at that time period, there was a little more notice starting to happen belatedly, you know.
Yeah, he had late in his life, he had a renewed level of activity and visibility. Well, it's all go in February of '77 at the Tin Palace. We talked about it a little earlier in the show. It was one of the spots for this music, and you know, we were talking about it in the context of the venues at the time, and some of those places, and we talk about the loft scene, and some of those places were lofts. They were in previously commercial buildings, warehouse kind of sites that were basically abandoned. It was this time that well documented. People know that New York was in economic decline and artistic and spiritual growth in a lot of ways, and one being very much the result of the other. But what I was going to say, what's a little bit different about the Tin Palace, it was actually, as I recall, you know, like a storefront site. It was, you walked in off the street, and I think they had more of like a bar service and stuff that you didn't see in a lot of the places. Maybe that was part of what allowed it to hang on a little
Tin
longer.
Palace was more like a
venue.
A venue or a club.
Yeah.
A club that dealt... they played a lot of jazz that you heard in clubs proper, too, plus a lot of, you know, what we're hearing now. Similar to Sweet Basil, how they had that policy where you heard the whole spectrum of the music. I always liked that venue, too.
That's a good
as
comparison.
As a young person, man, you know.
And they advertised. You'd see, you know, you'd pick up the Village Voice.
Oh, yeah, they did a lot of advertising, man. They had that Music is an Open Sky festival every year.
That what Sweet Basil did.
Sweet Basil
but
did,
the Tin Palace also would have an ad. And you know, it wasn't just for the, you know, people that knew. It was also, you know, you could walk in off the street and hear what you were going to hear. And
I'm sure that helped, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think they had food and beverages, too, from what I understand.
Yeah. And they did hang on a little longer than some of those other places, you know.
Yeah, I think a guy, Paul Pines, who was a poet, was the person that ran that. I think he passed a few years ago, unfortunately. I got to talk with him a little off and on before he passed, and that was nice. But he has had good memories of the venue, you know.
I got to ask you, Ras Moshe, what you got? What opportunities do people have to come hear you? How do people keep up with what you've got going on? How do we keep track of your many activities?
Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. I'm in my last semester in school, actually, at Vermont College of Fine Arts. I'm getting my MFA in music composition. And I've been learning a great deal and writing a lot, and it's been very fruitful. But if you're going to be in Monterey, California, between the 10th and the 14th of April, I will be playing there through Cal State Monterey, through my sister in spirit, Althea Sully Cole, the daughter of Bill Cole and Sarah Sully. She plays the kora, West African instrument, and she's now teaching there as a musicologist, and she's also a great musician, and she lived in Africa and studied the kora. And we've had a long-running trio with her and myself as a duo first, and then Alex Salins came in on the guitar, so it's now a trio. Also, so between the 10th and the 14th at Cal State Monterey, there's going to be workshops and a performance on the 14th. And
that is a very lovely part of the world right there.
Yeah. And May 30th, if you're in Montpelier, Vermont, I'll be playing at the Bent Nails Bistro with my Calypso Jazz Band. Mm-hmm. Keith Gibson drums, Emily Langsner on the steel pan. That's always a lot of fun. And we're going to be doing that. That's always a good vibe.
What's the best way to follow all the many things you are
I'm
doing?
working on a website now, finally, but I'm still, the best way is just to type my name into Facebook. I think it's Ras Moshe, Moshe, at Facebook.com. I am on there, and that's where you can find out about my events and everything that I'm doing musically, listings of when I'm performing. You can check that, and I'm working on getting a website happening pretty soon too, which is a long time coming.
Yeah, that's great.
It's happening.
Ras, R-A-S.
R-A-S.
Moshe,
M-O-S-H-E. Yeah.
At Facebook.com. And are you on the other socials, or are you, is that where you, the road runs out?
I'm not. I think I'm probably going to relent and get on Instagram in the coming days. And I'm going to be doing that as well. And I'm glad it's been such a productive time as far as activity. I was just thinking about that, especially coming out of a pandemic. It seems like the music is resurfacing. I mean, and I'm glad about that. You know, I'm still trying to be careful health-wise and everything, and you know, with crowds and everything. But it's a good feeling to play, to be able to project the positivity of the music to people again.
People are on the streets in New York, man. They're here.
Mm-hmm. And I think, What else am I doing? I think, working on some things for early May in New York City as well. But then there's going to be a variety of performances in the Vermont area too, in different parts of that. So,
all right.
More news ahead.
Should we head back to 1977, get in the time machine?
Yes, February 27th, 1977, yes.
We were saying there are some great recordings of Kalaparusha Maurice McIntyre that are commercially available, and you should have some in your collection. This is not one of them. This is from the private collection of Ras Moshe, from the deep in the...
I call it the Black Cosmic Music Library.
Little parts of it emerge from time to time.
Yeah.
We are the recipients, the beneficiaries tonight. And so let's go back to the Tin Palace, music from Kalaparusha.
And I want to thank WKCR, because this was the only place, as far as aside from your own collection, where you could hear Kalaparusha's music, was at this station.
Well, we're going full on with it tonight, that's for sure. And it's not heard often enough. I don't hear it on Top 40 nearly enough, but that could change. That could change after tonight.
That's right. Positive visualization.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We believe. Kalaparusha and the Light on Deep Focus on WKCR. Deep Focus from Monday, March 20th, 2023. Ras Moshe with me on the topic of Kalaparusha Maurice McIntyre. Hey, you know, if you subscribe to Deep Focus, you can get the first month free. And the second month is free, and the third month is free, and all the other months are free. It's all free. Ad-free, cost-free. We don't mind if you do want to let someone know, but other than that, it's on us. Come be our guest. Subscribe to Deep Focus on your favorite podcasting app, and you'll get notified when new episodes come up. You can read about them if it's somebody you're particularly interested in, either as the guest or the topic. Probably want to know. You want to check that out. And you can also follow us along. We're on Instagram. I put stuff up there with new episodes on we are deep_focus_podcast. Deep Focus Podcast at Instagram. And also, you know what, if you want to dig a little deeper, like let's say, hey, this guy Ras Moshe is really interesting, I want to hear the other times he's been on the show. I'm going to give you a different website address to look up and where you can do some digging. Go to my personal website is mitchgoldman.com. Pull down the About Deep Focus tab, and you'll find a Google search bar, and you put, let's say Ras Moshe's name in there, Rasmoshe, and you will, should come up. You should find other episodes. Deep Focus should emerge. We did a Deep Focus on Dewey Redman. He mentioned that he was on an episode with William Hooker with me. You could put William's name in there. You'll find all kinds of interesting things, some great shows, like one we did on Cecil Taylor with Steve Dalachinsky. He's a poet you might want to know about. William's a fantastic drummer. All the guests are almost always performers and worth checking out in their own right. Maybe you know that. Maybe you don't. Maybe you could tell somebody who doesn't know. All right. Come meet me over at part 3 of this show from March 20th, 2023.